since my earliest recollection. In fact, one of those earliest recollections was actually praying to be a girl, not realizing at that young age that I really was a girl. In fact, I didn't realize that until much later when I understood what I was and came to grips with it. But actually, a transsexual is a transgender person who identifies as the gender opposite that they were identified at birth. And of course, the prefix trans means across, so across sex. A transsexual is someone who transitions from the gender role of the sex that they were identified at birth into the other gender role. In my case, identified male at birth, transitioned into a gender role of female, and now live full time as female.
So it's an either or. You're either a man or a woman.
Well, in my case, more or less, yes. Now, there is no black and white exclusively. Mix them together, and you got gray, and you can refer to the gray area perhaps as non-binary. There is.
You finally picked up on my segue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the next subcategory that we're going to throw out as one of the terms we'll use regularly is non-binary, and these are people who were assigned either gender at birth, and who aren't comfortable with that. They are not binary. They aren't necessarily the gender they were born with, and they are not necessarily a transsexual. They aren't comfortable being one or the other. They are non-binary. And I guess under that definition, we could also include the gender fluid people. They go back and forth. Jerry-Ann and I have some friends that are gender fluid. Some days they feel like expressing in a masculine way, and sometimes they feel like expressing in a feminine way.
Oh, absolutely. I have a young friend who was identified female at birth, and we used to go to church together. And one Sunday she'd wear a dress, be cute as a bug, and next Sunday she'd wear slacks and a sports shirt and no makeup. And she was comfortable that way because that's just how she felt that day. So she's gender fluid, and she'd date girls, she'd date boys, and she did whatever would float her boat.
And now we come to the cross-dressers. Certainly greater in number than any of these other subcategories we've talked about, but the cross-dressers also fall under the transgender umbrella term. And these are people that for any number of reasons literally enjoy dressing in or appearing as a member of the opposite sex. It may just be an occasional kind of in the closet activity, or they may enjoy going out and completely expressing as a female, but inside they'll tell you, no, I'm still a man, or I'm still a woman. I just enjoy dressing in those as the opposite sex from time to time. And I suppose we should talk about drag queens. They're not really what we would call under the transgender umbrella term, though they do dress as women. They are performers. And everybody has seen RuPaul's Drag Race. That's one form of drag queen performance. There are others, but the main thing to take away is that it's a performance for them.
Absolutely, I'm glad you mentioned that. When you wear a costume and you perform, that's different than just needing to live a certain way. Yep. That's performing for an income.
Right. So we've thrown out a whole bunch of labels, and now I'm going to tell you that the experts, the professional community, the medical and psychological community, tends to avoid labels. They have latched on to transgender as an umbrella term to cover all manner of gender identity and gender expression, but they approach actual diagnosis of being transgender in a different way. The standard for that is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, currently on version 5. And if there were an equal sign between transsexual and the diagnosis in the DSM-5, it would be gender dysphoria. It would be, well, I'm going to let Jerry Ann talk about gender dysphoria. She expresses it better than I do.
Oh, absolutely. The gender dysphoria is the best I can describe it is a feeling of angst that you feel like a girl, but you're compelled to live as a guy, and that is extremely stressful for a transsexual person, even if you were identified as female at birth, but you identified as male. Being forced by your culture to live in a way that is contrary to the way you feel results in a measure of angst is the word I prefer to use for that. And but technically it's described as gender dysphoria, and it is a horrible condition, and only relieved by treatments, medical treatments, and the opportunity to live authentically. Gender dysphoria can be so severe that a person can just ultimately cop out of life, and that's one reason that the
literally yeah.
cop out of life,
yeah.
And the transgender population has a horrendous suicide rate as a result of that, and I think we'll get into that a little later. But that's my expression of gender dysphoria. You have anything to add, Kelly?
I think that covers it. We've talked about all these definitions, and no matter where you fall in that category, we hope to address the preponderance of transgender people who attempt to suppress and hide their true selves. Lots of reasons to do that, some valid, some not. We want to fix all those where we can. Meanwhile, you just get through each day by sheer will. Fake it till you make it.
Yes, and sometimes there's just so much that you can fake. I know a trans woman who expresses it as or likens it to wringing out towel. She said, I wrung out that towel and got all the guy that I could out of that towel, and when no more guy could be wrung out of that towel, she said, I just had to drop the towel. And that's a great visual.
I love that metaphor. It makes sense, and you just have to have been there to get it, but it's so right. So let's tell people what they can expect from future episodes of Trans Truth.
All right. Well, in the future, we plan on having discussions on religion, politics, medical treatments, the transition.
And by that, we mean the whole process, not just the medical treatments and surgeries and stuff like that. We're talking about
social transition, professional transition, transition in every way. Let's see.
We're going to cover news and topical items of interest like we did at the top of the show. I should say news and topical items of interest to the transgender community like we did at the top of the show. We will have guests from time to time. I'm sorry, did you have something you wanted to add there, Jerry Ann?
I did. We're in our news items and of interest to the transgender community. And to everyone else too, even allies, friends, and families. It's important to recognize that there are a lot of transgender people who are very successful in all walks of life: medicine, politics, engineering, especially information technology. Most of your information, your cyber information, is probably handled by a transgender person. It's been my experience.
We know a lot of people that are of transgender people that are that work in information technology. I'm not sure why that is, but it's just been a field that's been more accepting to diversity.
It seems that way. Sometimes I wonder, what am I doing here?
You mentioned successful transgender people, so we're not all like Elliot Page, or who's that? Used to be a Olympic decathlete. What's her name?
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, that one.
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, we're not her at all.
No. No, we're real people, Kelly. We're just real people. We have talents, we have knowledge, we have skills. We have a need for acceptance. We have a need for love, fulfillment. We're just regular people. That's all. And we're gonna in the future.
Most of us are. You're a movie star.
Oh my gosh! I guess we'll get into that. We'll get into that later in a future episode, I guess.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it now. We're going to have guests on the show. We're going to have personal accounts and testimonies from transgender people.
So I'm going to be my own guest?
I guess so. I'll explain. It's just a tease for an upcoming episode with one of our guests. Jerry Ann was part of a very moving documentary about one of our friends who's a transgender attorney who also lives here in the Houston area. So stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, I'm hoping we also get the Honorable Judge Phyllis Fry on board. Phyllis Fry is also a resident here in Houston, and she is the first ever transgender judge on planet Earth. She was appointed as a city judge quite some years ago now.
Yeah.
I think there are 3, maybe 4 judges around the country, around the world. But we hope to get Phyllis Fry on board.
Yeah.
In addition to some other guests in the areas of religion, politics, law, social sciences. What else, Kelly?
Let's see. Well, I wanted to back up and talk about Phyllis. I don't want to spill all the beans, but Judge Fry has some historical legal accomplishments on her resume. If you want to find out more about her, just Google Judge Phyllis Fry, and you'll come across some amazing articles about her. We also hope to get experts with information of importance to transgender people. And like Jerry Ann said, the topics will cover everything from religion to politics to law, social science, medical science, health and beauty, you name it. Well, Jerry Ann, I think that about wraps up our first Trans Truth podcast. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us. I mean, sincerely, thank you for joining us, because we're doing this thing, but it's you that's going to take this information out to your friends, family, coworkers, and whatever. So keep an eye on this space. Our next episode will drop soon, and the topic on that episode is
transphobia. The irrational fear of, aversion to, or discrimination against transgender people.
You have been listening to Trans Truth, the podcast that is speaking truth about what it means to be transgender. We hope that you have found this episode to be informative and enlightening, whether you are transgender yourself, you have a friend or loved one who is transgender, and especially if you're simply looking to understand more about the transgender experience. Thanks for listening.